Oh yeah, look at that color. Sparkle in the sun. New rattle can paint job on the Snakester. My 2021 Iron 883, affectionately known as the Snakester. Kind of mimic the factory snake venom paint, but through a third-party rattle can company. And it shows off the purple more than the factory color. I see why the motor company did what they did, but this just pops every time you look at it in the sun. And of course, I'm debadged. This is actually a 48 tank, a tank that will go on a 48, made by a third-party company. Got it off DennisKirk.com, and it just looks awesome. But I'll be doing a full reveal of some modifications that I've done recently. I noticed the gold forks, the Olin suspension, the new air intake by Roland Sands. Did some modifications last couple months. But today we're going to talk about what's going on at Harley Corporate. There's a dumpster fire going on. And there's one man at the helm pulling the trigger. All good stories start at the gas station, don't they? Oh, it's a beautiful day for a ride, but you guys are here for the story that's unraveling at Harley Davidson. Look, magnets. Shout out to Odin. Brapstar gloves. Let's fill her up. So Jochen Zeitz, you may have heard, has decided that he's going to retire as CEO and president of Harley Davidson. And he's been in that role pretty much since 2020. It was supposed to be a 3-month deal, taking over for Matt Levitage, the former president. But he said, I'll take it over after the 3rd month. And that's where he's been ever since. And now they're looking for a new CEO. In fact, they've already interviewed 3 people. And that's where kind of the drama comes into effect. After interviewing those 3 people, one of the board members threw their hands up in disgust as they couldn't reach a decision to hire any of those 3 and said, hey, this is what's happening here in Harley Davidson corporate land, and I'm going to let the whole world know what's going on. So after years of Jochen Zeitz heading the ship and steering it in a direction that most of us out here in Harley Davidson world feel is a misdirection, he is leaving, and they're trying to find a replacement, and the board is up in arms on who to decide. And one of the youngest members of the board, Jared Duderville, a Harvard grad and a partner with a company called H Partners, which is an investment firm. They have a big investment into Harley Davidson. Not as big as BlackRock, some of these other guys, Vanguard, but a pretty significant investment where they have a seat on the board. And the guy's in his early 30s, younger guy, probably the youngest one on the board. He's been on the board since 2022. So February of 2022 is when he joined. So he just made it just over 3 years on the board. And he sent a letter to the board in advance of his resignation, requesting that the board look at these considerations and ask for the CEO, Jochen Zeitz, to immediately step down, and one of the longest standing members of the board, a 30-year member, the first female member on a Harley board, has asked her to step down as well, because citing that both Jochen and her are tied to the hip, and whatever she likes, he likes, and whatever he likes, she likes. And it's like having multiple votes in one. First off, Jochen Zeitz, he gets 2 votes for everything because he's CEO and chairman of the board. And then she gets a vote. So it's really 3 votes against everybody else, no matter what. So anyways, Jared, I'm going to call him Jared because I can't really guarantee that I'm pronouncing his last name, Duderville, correctly. So I'm just going to call him Jared. He's done some fantastic things for us. I think he's validated what everybody has been thinking about and publicly proclaiming since last summer's DEI fiasco, where people were blowing up bikes with tanks and other RPGs, and people were debadging. 10 months later, here we are, and Harley's stock is down, sales are down. Did we win? Did Robbie Starbucks do it? I don't think so, but it's the sense of where we are right now. And let me tell you more about this story. It gets really juicy. Cool. So this is a new Brapstar Odin collaboration, and we got the Shade Tree Surgeon Wizard on it. It's pretty cool. They got magnets on these gloves, so they stick to anything metal, which is convenient during gas stops, I must say. Ooh, that sounds good. The Mighty Comet from Gallop Exhaust. Rolling down Highway 44. Hell yeah, brothers. Going fishing. Well, we are on Fish Camp Road, so that makes sense. Anyway, so Jared writes a letter, and he tells the board that, Sarah needs to go, Jochen needs to go, and you guys need to change your ways. And we're not getting anything accomplished. I'm not happy about the fact that profitability is down. The morale and culture of the white-collar workers employed at Harley Davidson, who all work remotely, the morale is down. The productivity is down. So that letter came across on a Thursday, and the Harley board collectively responds in an email form to Jared and says, okay, we understand your concerns. What we propose is a change of the directorships within the board of directors and what areas they govern. So they're not going to give him what he wants, which is a blatant ask, a clear ask on Jochen needs to go, and Sarah, Jochen's buddy, needs to go. And oh, by the way, it is Jochen Zeitz. It's not any of these.
Jochen Zeitz is
Jochen Zeitz.
Harley Davidson CEO Jochen Zeitz.
Anyways, it is Jochen, the German national, who's CEO of the most American of companies. Scratch your head. With ties to finances from the BMW Corporation. Yeah, I did a whole video on that. It's interesting. Anyways, moving on to how the board responded. They said, well, Jared, we can, of course, mix up who's responsible for what areas of the company and go from there. So what I learned is that this board of directors, they call themselves a board of governance. So if you go to the website in investor relations, it talks about this board of governance. What, wasn't right enough fast for you, buddy? You gotta risk your life in front of all these people? Almost hit other motorcyclists? Well, I guess I am distracted by motor blogging. What's up, buddy? But you're not gonna go anywhere because there's a car in front of you. You're stupid.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
Anyways, so what I learned is that this board of directors, they call themselves a board of governance. Like, they're back in the old English days. And some members of the board have responsibilities for tasks and things that they look over. Some are public affairs, some is manufacturing, some is advertising and marketing. You get the point. So instead of having Jochen step down and Sarah step down, this collective response to Jared's email, what's up, chopper boy? Oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of them. Look at these guys. You're not really motorcyclists, but I'll wave to you anyways. Last guy was a trike, he's cool. They juked me with the chopper out front, and then they got all the other guys following behind. Anyways, he's like, no, I don't want to mix up with the board where, Sarah then goes from looking over legal issues, now she's going to look over merchandising and marketing. They still have their votes. They all have to vote on directives. So you're not changing the personality of the board at all. It's like when you were kids and you were playing like football in the neighborhood. Like, we used to have these blocks versus block neighborhood community football tournaments where one block would face off on another block, and then we would go down into the playoffs, and there would be like 6 or 7 blocks involved. And some blocks would have older kids on it, right? So you're 8 or 9, and you got to play against 10 to 12-year-olds. And they got ringers for quarterbacks. They got the fastest guys, basically young men, as wide receivers, and big guys as blockers and runners. And you're 8 years old. You never can beat them. They're always going to win, and you just hope to vie for your time when you're that age, and you could be the biggest people in the neighborhood and win the Super Bowl. But the problem is that, people lose interest in the neighborhood. People move, and that period of time, it was just a moment, only lasted a couple years, and it's gone. Never got the opportunity. And that's kind of how it is right now with Harley Davidson's board. It's got a bunch of people that have been there forever. Jochen's been there since 2007. Sarah's been there since the late 90s, and they don't want to change. And the rest of the board is full of people that you can't identify with. But it is very diverse. You got black people, you have gay people, you have lesbian people, you got white males. You got a lot of equity going on, a lot of inclusion. What? Diversity, equity, inclusion? Oh my God. Exactly. The board is ripe with it. But are they diverse enough where they incorporate you and I, the Harley Davidson consumer? You know? I don't see anybody with tattoos on the board, especially not any face tattoos. I don't see anybody with long hair and piercings. I see a lot of corporate-looking people because that's who they represent. They represent equity partners. They represent banks and investment firms. How many of you guys out there work for those? And that's where it's all about. So they tell Jared that, you know, we'll just shuffle the deck a little bit with responsibilities within the board of governance, but we're not going to let Jochen go, and Sarah's not going. We're going to stick it out, and we're going to find the replacement. We're going to have a hand in who is going to be the next CEO of Harley Davidson, perpetuating the bullshit. Because I guarantee you, the 3 people that went in there, and if not, they don't need to be applying for the job, but the 3 people that went in there and said, well, first thing I need to do is look at where the problems are and solve those. And the biggest problem that I see is LiveWire is sucking the profit out of Harley Davidson, and that division needs to go. And all of a sudden, Sarah and Jochen, these are their pet projects. Sustainability. The sustainability czar. What did Jochen say he was? Oh, I'm the Taliban of sustainability.
In fact, I was greeted with a lot of skepticism in Milwaukee when I knocked on their door as the first sustainable Taliban when I tried to convince people to be also about sustainability.
Well, nothing's more sustainable than electric, right? Oh yeah, that cobalt isn't toxic, is it, guys? That cobalt that makes batteries what they are. That's not dangerous. That's not killing the earth by executing that, is it? How sustainable. So Jochen and Sarah are looking at these candidates are like, oh man, they want to get rid of LiveWire. Nah, you can't be the next president and CEO. Sorry. So Jared's like, ain't nothing gonna change, man. Nothing's gonna change. So the board in that email tells Jared that, okay, on Monday, we'll go ahead and set that vote up, and everybody's gonna be on a Zoom call, and we'll decide who's gonna be in charge of what. Usually this happens at the beginning of the year. They probably already had their vote, and then they're just going to mix it up, stick it in a mixer, pull a name out of the hat, whatever they're going to do. Friday, end of business comes and goes. Saturday morning, what does Jared do? He fires off a resignation letter. He's like, guys, see ya, I don't want to be ya, I'm out of here. And, oh, by the way, since this is me officially resigning, I have to send a copy of this letter to the SEC. And then it becomes public record, and that's how we got a hold of it. So in this letter, there's lots of goodies that echoes what he said in the first letter, the first email, which we don't have access to because it wasn't a resignation letter, it was an internal letter. But he makes sure that he covers a few things that was discussed in the first email. He fires off the letter, and in the letter there's some redactions. Most likely the redactions are personal things, things that be categorized as opinions that are maybe libelous, who knows, but those are redacted. But what we do see is enough to kind of confirm what everybody's been thinking and saying in the public light. And some of the highlights are that Jared feels that Harley is not doing their job in bringing on new customers into the fold, specifically new riders. And this one connects to me quite a bit because I'm riding my first Harley Davidson. This is the bike I bought brand new from a dealer in 2021. Why did I buy a bike brand new? Well, it's the old Tony Robbins thing. People make decisions based on one of two things: fear or pleasure. And this Tony Robbins thing, this science that he has, I think plays into what's going on at Harley Davidson quite a bit. But for my personal situation, I bought this bike out of fear that something would happen to the bike. I don't know anything about motorcycles, and I wanted the dealer to be there for me, so I wanted a warranty. So I wanted to buy a bike in warranty. And I bought the most conservative motorcycle that Harley makes, an R83, had been built since basically 1957, but it had the Evo engine, had been around since the mid-80s, and, you know, I'm buying something that's reliable. It's like, you know, buying a Subaru or something. I bought a Sportster. Didn't buy a Royal Enfield. Didn't buy a Triumph. I bought a Harley Davidson because I wanted to buy a Harley Davidson. I like how they sound. I like how they look. I like the culture. And I bought something that I could feel comfortable on. After riding my 125cc Kawasaki at my MSF course, this was the next bike I rode. So Jared's right. There's not a product out there that can bring in someone from either the MSF course or the Harley Riding Academy, which now uses 300cc bikes with a cap limiter on it that you can't go above like 25 miles per hour on the training course. And they're importing those in from overseas. They're made by Benelli, and they're stickered with Harley Davidson sticker logos on it, but you know, they're being sold in Asia for the Asian market as a 300cc bike, but they're not available here in the States. And FYI, I heard the ergonomics on those things are terrible. One thing that AMF did back in those days is they bought an Italian motorcycle company called Aramici, and they incorporated in those low cc bikes into Harley Davidson just as a tool to get younger riders involved. And they had dirt bikes, and they had off-road bikes, and they had very small cc on-road bikes. So no matter where you were in the stage of comfortability, Harley Davidson had something for you to kind of roll you into the family. They don't have that right now. They're relying on the hope that someone will buy a Kawasaki, they'll buy a Royal Enfield, they'll buy a low cc bike, and then eventually, when they hit their 40s, when they have the money, they'll go, oh yeah, Harley Davidson, I can finally afford Harley Davidson, so I'm going to go buy my Harley Davidson. You're leaving a lot up to chance. You know, I can see Ferrari doing that, because Ferrari is only going to serve, you know, 0.5% of the whole population of the world, if that much. Extremely wealthy people. So Ferrari can do that and sustain a workforce, but motorcycling is a niche of a niche. And then if you're going to be gatekeeping new riders with the cost of your merchandise, then sales are going to drop even more. And that's what happened. So Jared called him out on that. He called him out on the workforce, the white-collar workforce being dissipated in Milwaukee. It doesn't exist. If you're a Harley Davidson employee and you're white-collar, your design, your engineering, you're working from home. Jochen Zeitz is working from California. He's got a new fiancée who works in Hollywood. He lives in California, man. The only people that are working in Milwaukee are former California employees, the LiveWire people. They moved him back to Milwaukee because the costs were too much to rent space out there in California. So they brought him back to Milwaukee as a cost savings, and so they're occupying some of the space. Otherwise, the spaces are empty in Milwaukee. And that's impacted the economy of Milwaukee. They're not happy. You Milwaukeeans, you city folk that work for the city and count on big corporations to pay their taxes and put people in the bars and restaurants, raise families. It's not happening. What's up, buddy? I wave to everybody. If you're on the road with a helmet on, you're getting a wave. So Jared's like, this is affecting morale. It's affecting productivity. It's affecting how we feel about our company. And the results are sales are down. Jared also said that Jochen, when he assumed the role back in 2020, dealers had 99 days of inventory per dealership on average. Fast forward 2025, dealers have 145 days of inventory. So they're not going through inventory faster. They're going through it slower. And one of the things that Jochen was tasked to do was to clear that 99 days and reduce it. He's increased it. There's more stock on dealers floor today than there was when he took over. And then Jared called him out on his little flim-flam deal that Jochen did back in December of 2023, where he advanced shipped 2024 models in December, right? You guys remember this? So any model that wasn't going to have anything different to it except for paint, he shipped those in December of 2023 rather than January of 2024, thus bumping up the numbers for year-to-date sales to 2024 to dealers. Now remember, when Harley reports numbers, they're not reporting sales numbers to consumers. Units sold to consumers. No, it's units sold to dealers. They sell to dealer. They don't sell to you. The dealer sells to you. So the numbers that investors are looking at to evaluate the performance of a company are what's being sold to dealers, what they ship out the door. Not what's paid by the dealers, but what they ship. It's like getting credit for a sale that is in limbo. You know, it's baloney. But anyways, that's what investors look at. So come December 2024, it shows that the Harley Davidson Corporation is down in the fourth quarter by this huge double-digit numbers, like 50-something%. Well, all they did was delay things. And what happens is, if you're up in sales, guess what the CEO gets? He gets benefits like bonus money. So he's grabbing bags of cash, knowing that within 12 months, he's going to be retiring and he's going to leave the company. And that's what happened. In October of this past year, 24, he's like, I'm going to retire, guys, so you might want to start looking for a replacement for me. And so from October to now, they've interviewed 3 people. Meanwhile, Jochen got his bag of money. All these guys that are on the board, they're rich. Really, really rich. Not just rich. They're filthy fucking rich. And they don't care. So, back to Tony Robbins, it's pain or pleasure. So when the job, just think about it, you're really, really rich. You're wealthy. You could do whatever the F you want with your time during the day. You could do anything. Are you going to do something pleasurable with your time or something painful? You're going to do something pleasurable. So when it starts to become painful, like people in the media saying you shouldn't be CEO, then you go out and meet with a couple dealers, 3 different dealers, and you have lunch with them, and you ask them, hey guys, is my being CEO and president hindering anything for you sales-wise? And the dealers go, well, I'm glad you brought that up, Jochen. As a matter of fact, people really hate you. They call you a Nazi. They don't understand why you're CEO and the decisions that you're making, like keeping the LiveWire motorcycle in the news and trying to say that all Harley Davidsons are to be electrified by 2035. But yet you've only sold 600 units since the release of LiveWire back in 2021. So pretty much we'd like you to leave. Well, it doesn't matter how rich you are, that's going to affect your ego. It's going to affect your sense of worth. Meanwhile, you got a new fiance. She works in Hollywood. She's kind of hot. She's younger. And, she wants to have a baby. And you're kind of keen to the idea of having a baby, too. So, should I go with the pain or should I go with the pleasure? Well, obviously, Jochen decided to go with the pleasure. And we'll stick it out for a few months to a year to find its replacement. And then he's adios. Meanwhile, in his wake, we got LiveWire sucking the profitability out of the company. The stocks used to be $40-something a share. Now it's down in the 20s a share, which is great. Good time to buy. I still think the shares are going to drop a little bit more. So, but I'm not a stockbroker. I wonder how many shares it takes to get on the board. That'd be kind of cool. Be a board member, Start your own hedge fund. Leverage stock shares from other things you do. And then as you grow, buy more shares of Harley. And then, boom, you're like Jared on the board. But you gotta have buddies on the board. You gotta have friends. Jochen has friends. But, he did the long game thing. He joined in 2007. It's 18 years later, and he's got a stranglehold on the board. But if I had a board, if I was on the board, I'd want to get some people like Matt Laidlaw. You know? What do you think, Matt? You want to join me? Matt's got a successful business in Southern California, Harley Davidson dealership that he's running. Took it over from his dad, who took it over from his dad. So you got 3 generations right there. I'm sure he would have some valuable insight on how to govern Harley Davidson. What about Jeff Holt, V-Twin visionary? I think Jeff, he's been around the industry for a long time. He's got tattoos. He's got a beard. He's got a ponytail. He looks like a lot of us. And he knows what he's talking about. Let's bring Jeff on. Who else would be good out there? How about Stacy DeWitt? We need female representation. How about Ride to Food? Bring her on. She rides Harley Davidson. She's living the Harley Davidson lifestyle. I'd love to have her in a board chair. Who else would be good? Wouldn't this be a coup? Let's bring Bill Melvin over. Liquidation Partners CEO. Bill Melvin and CEO of Buell Motorcycles. Bring him over. See if he can work something out, and Harley will buy back Buell. Heck, Buell's already using their Lowrider ST fairings on their Super Cruiser motorcycle. From 10 feet, you can't tell if it's a Lowrider ST or if it's a Buell Super Cruiser. So let's just go ahead and reconsummate that relationship so there's no confusion. Who else would be good on the Harley Davidson board? Let me know down in the comments who you would want on the Harley Davidson board. Why not Shade Tree Surgeon? Put him on the board, and he can help govern, I don't know, merchandising. I think the merchandising from Harley Davidson is getting a little stale. It needs to have more wizards and dragons and other animals. Jared also brought up LiveWire, which is, dead wire. So everything we've been talking about that we don't like about Harley Davidson's board and the direction of the company, pretty much Jared brought up. It's good to know that a board member agrees with us. But the problem is that board member, it was like, I don't know, 8 against 1. There's 9 board members, and everybody else was against him. I mean, I can't speculate into what board members think and how they act, except based on their results. And the results are they're disconnected from the marketplace, and things have to change. Well, look at here. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to ride our motorcycles and enjoy our Harley Davidsons. And in fact, I'm pulling into Warhorse Harley Davidson right now in beautiful Ocala, Florida. We're going to ride some Harley Davidsons because the demo truck is here this weekend. And I'm doing a bunch of reviews on all the Harley Davidson 2025 models. And you can see those videos popping up right here on the screen. So I appreciate you staying here with me throughout this video, talking about Harley Davidson and the dumpster fire that's going on. It's to be continued. As things pop up, I'll create new videos, keep you guys abreast of all the latest with Harley Davidson news. Until then, I'm Kenny Quest. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Peace.